Joining us now is junior doctor Bhasha Mukherjee. Good morning, Dr. Mukherjee. Good to see you. So we're listening to this, and the word that keeps coming to my mind, that this is a criminal dereliction of duty from somebody. How, as a doctor, could you see how this was happened? Would doctors have known about the blood products? Were they turning a blind eye? There just weren't the checks in place? How do you rationalise what happened?
First of all, my condolences to all the families that have been affected by this. It sounds absolutely shocking that this was allowed to happen. I think a lot of learning has definitely come from this. And one thing I would say is that as a doctor, it's been drilled into us this concept of duty of candour, which had this been done all these years ago, of essentially harm being done to patients, so many patients. And one thing we're finding out is some of these patients didn't even know, years later, they found out they were infected with HIV or Hep C. Duty of candour is something that I've never known any world without it, but this is something that is shocking to me, that had it been done at the time, we wouldn't have to fork out £10 billion or even more than that, which is probably not even enough. It works out as about £300,000 per member that was affected, which is only 10 years worth of compensation. And these families have been struggling for, well, decades now. So it's really sad that this happened.
In your view, Doctor, don't the drug companies have culpability here? In America, they've paid compensation, I think in other countries, but in Britain, it's the taxpayer yet again who's paying the bill. Because, of course, the government talk about 10 billion compensation. I agree with you. It's probably not enough. But it's coming out of taxpayers' pockets, and the drug companies surely have a responsibility.
100%. I think in this case, definitely, if it's possible to hold those individuals culpable, that would be amazing. And had these been done in time, we wouldn't have had to come to this amount at this stage. In fact, I'm willing to bet that these people who are affected, they are, this sorry so late wouldn't be enough, really, because the individuals who wronged them are not saying the sorry. It's people, but, it's too late, but it's still something. At the end of the day, this is not something I'm surprised by. We have seen several of the COVID vaccines being implicated in side effects as well. Unfortunately, there is a censorship culture in the NHS where doctors and people who are essentially working face-to-face with patients, we are silenced by health bosses. And if we open our mouths, there's a lot of consequences. We're always of losing our GMC if we speak against the trust we're working in. So I'm not surprised, really, that this was happening.
It's about trust, isn't it? And it feels like that relationship between the public or the patient and the medical profession has sort of reached an all-time low in terms of trust of our medics. How do we ever get that back, Bhasha?
I think it's really sad that this happened, because not only those families, but the people who are finding out about something like this happening and affecting 30,000 individuals, those of whom who would have probably had health anxiety for the rest of their lives, they would have changed their behaviour and how their children would have been managed. They would have probably felt untrusting of doctors for years and years and generations. And something like this comes out at a time like now when, already we've seen the NHS is struggling with real lives being cost with the way things are being handled. I think this is very damaging to the doctor-patient relationship. And we really have to work to kind of rebuild that trust. The current medical professionals, we are being given regular training, and I think there's been a lot that's been learned from all the mistakes made in the past, and we're all working towards a better future, hopefully.
OK, thank you so much, Dr. Bhasha Mukherjee there.
It's really fascinating. So these drugs they'd be put into like a big plasma. So it could be 10,000 samples of this drug. Only one had to be infected, and that was all 10,000. Then would have the HIV, could have potentially the HIV virus in it. And then so people were then inadvertently giving HIV to their partners.
Of course.
Shocking.
And when you think about the ripple effects of
Yeah.
a story like this on those individual lives, as you say, it's not just about the health effects with that particular person, but then affecting whether they can ever get married, whether they can ever have children,
Yeah,
whether they
of
can
course.
ever even be in a normal relationship. It's heartbreaking.
Really is.